Welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and once again, the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you by our two great sponsors. One is Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And the other sponsor is Strulowitz and Gargiulo, Twin Boro Physical Therapy, located at 1 Nardone Place in Jersey City. And the telephone number there is 201-792-3840. And with me today is my special guest who had a long 3-decade coaching career in the Jersey City public school system, but more importantly, he was the architect of the rebirth of the Ferris High School football program, where it went from absolutely being a complete dormant to when my guest took over and led them to the state playoffs 4 straight years, and also won the city championship 4 straight years in a row. And great coach, and also has been a great friend of mine for a long time. And that's my special guest today, Harry Lerner. Harry, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm tip top. I was wondering who that was. It sounds like a lot better record than I remember, but that's good.
No, it's all fact and all true. So anyway, all right. So let's turn the clock back, and I don't want to say how far back, but let's turn the clock back to your childhood. And where did you grow up?
Jersey City. Like many, Margaret Haig was where it began, 1949.
Okay.
I was on Bergen Avenue between Armstrong and Van Nostrand for the first couple of years, and then the family moved to Stevens Avenue between the boulevard closer to West Side. And that's probably where things started to take shape.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about where did you go to grammar school?
I started at PS 34, then I went to public school 38, James F. Murray, and it was there that I guess I was 8 or 9 years old. A neighbor took a couple of us to Roosevelt Stadium. At the time, Joe Caviello's memorial team was playing St. Peter's Prep. Bill Cochran was the coach.
Wow, how did you get into the building? Those games used to draw like 12,000, 13,000 people, right?
That's exactly what was there, and I walked in, and from that moment on, I think there were bands and squads, and these guys came running out of the dugout, from the tunnel onto the field, and that was it. I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. Where my house was, I could hear it was probably the late Kaz Rakowski was the announcer in those days, I think. And
sure.
I'd wait when the lights came on. I'd listen to him announce the game. Whenever I could, I'd go to the stadium. I'd wait till halftime when the guy runs to the stadium. And Al Keenan.
Very well, good friend. Al Keenan used to sneak me into the armory too. Go ahead.
He would open the gate at halftime and we would win. And I would try to get to as many day games as I could. If I really got lucky, I snuck in when they opened the gate for the ambulance.
Okay.
I watched high school football all over the place. And I'll tell you what, to this day.
Did you go to the minor league baseball games down there too? Did you go to see the Jersey City Giants play? And
I saw Yo-Yo Davalillo and Ricky Henderson. I mean, I even go back. I would help my cousin used to park cars for the Dodgers when they played there at what is now the Moose Club on West Side Avenue.
Yep.
But from the Dream concerts to the rock concerts to the wrestling, whatever went down, I was a fan. I was a worker there. I was a player. I was a coach. To this day, I mean, it broke my heart when they took that place down. It's one of my favorite places on earth, no matter where I've been.
Same here, friend. This is the Roosevelt Stadium, which, by the way, I'm blessed that I've got a row of seats that are sitting in my living room. That when it was getting torn down, I said I got to do something to get something to remember Roosevelt Stadium. So I went and I asked one of the construction workers. I said, "Can I get some of those?" And he goes, as long as you can get it out of here. I said, so sure enough, I could only carry, I think it was 3 in a row that I carried out of there, put it in the trunk of my car, and I then had it refurbished, and it now sits in my living room. The streak, and it's been repainted with the original Roosevelt Stadium paint and the etching and the whole 9 yards. It looks like it did when it was in Roosevelt Stadium. So I'm very fortunate.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
So many great memories there. I mean, great wins, heartbreaking losses. I mean, events that I worked that were. I remember working professional wrestling there.
Wow.
My job, or one of my jobs, was to help get wrestlers from the locker room to the ring and back. And I'm in the locker room with these guys that were wrestling each other, were drinking like 16-ounce Rhinegold's, talking to each other. They didn't have a care in the world about the bout. Obviously they knew what was going to happen. And the nastiest wrestlers were the nicest guys. Their kids. It was, and sure enough, on the way to the ring, some old woman hit one of the wrestlers with a light bulb.
Oh, you're kidding.
A guy named Carl Von Hess, the Mad Prussian.
The Mad Prussian?
That was his stage name, I guess you would call it. And there was Killer Kowalski and Bulldog Brower and
Bulldog Brower, who lived in Cliffside Park. He was a New Jersey guy.
And really, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And there was another guy who came, Wild Red Berry.
I don't know who that is. Wild Red Berry? Okay.
He was the manager for this, the Kangaroos, I think was the big guy. Anyway, that was just amazing to me. Work in the locker room where the guys were, like kibitzing and friendly with each other, and then they were going to go out and supposed to eat each other's brains out. And then myself and the late Ollie Jackson, we had a separate hot dog wagon outside the stadium for all the rock concerts and things. We had some fun with that.
See, and you and I both made money on the rock concerts. I used to get up early in the morning after the concert was over and go down there with my shopping cart and collect all the cans. And I used to make a lot of money collecting aluminum cans at Roosevelt Stadium. A lot of money.
I did that too. I would walk in the stands and open like 2 parts of a can of Schaefer, and I would sell beer. Or I walked around the stands with a tank on my back with hot chocolate. That place was just a major part of my life.
Well, same here. But all right, so before we go any further, let's talk about as being a little kid, and how much was sports a major part of your life? Say growing up as a kid, and say watching sports on television and playing sports in the neighborhood and that type of thing.
In those days, parents had to get us into the house, not like today. Did it all from marbles to scoop ball to points to box ball, running bases, 2-hand touch. You name it, we played at hide and seek, tag, stick ball on a bounce, on a fly, wiffle ball. And I was finally old enough to go to college Little League, and I met Blackie DeRosa, Mr. D, taught me how to play baseball. And from that day on, I was really hooked. Not only did I wind up playing all levels for college Little League, years later they brought me back as a board of director and a manager. We were lucky enough to win a couple titles. They gave me the All-Star team. In those days, it was a single elimination. We got all the way to the state semifinals. We beat some really good teams with really good players.
Is that the College Little League All-Stars?
College Little League All-Stars.
Wow. All right, so go back as a player, or as just growing up as a kid. How much did you just couldn't wait to go out and play with your friends and that type of thing?
We would stay out until the parents made us come home. I mean, windows would open. They'd call us in for dinner. We finally got into the dinner. It was over. Right back out. Get our homework done as fast as we could as kids. Maybe while Soupy Sales was on, we would do our homework right after school, something like that. And it was different. It was a different world. It was safe. Neighbors looked out for one another. I would come down in the morning at my house from, I'd wake up and I'd come downstairs and half the block would be eating breakfast there. There'd be a motorcycle parked in my parents' dining room. People would be crashing on the couch and the floor. The doors were hardly ever locked. I was blessed. Stevens Avenue was, I wouldn't trade it for anything. What a great area with great people, and some of them are lifelong friends, and to this day I stay in touch. And we played every game you could think of, and it was a hell of a ride as a kid.
All right, so how much?
All the gyms, the schools at night too. It was just a great childhood.
All right, how much did that be an influence on you as you became an adult? And well, first of all, then going from grammar school into high school, and how much did
I went to Snyder High School. And, I was fortunate enough to meet great people along the way, and they had influences on me. Every stop I met somebody good. Like I said, baseball was Mr. D. Football, early on, I met the guys involved with the Jersey City Recreation Program, which I wound up actually being in charge of for a while later on in life. And it seems like I got to coach pretty much wherever I stopped. I went to Snyder, I coached at Snyder. I went to Jersey City State for a bit, I coached there. I played in college little league, I managed there. It's interesting turn of events, the way things panned out.
All right. When you played at college, so you played at college little league. How good were you as a baseball player, and how good were the teams that you played for at college little league?
Well, I was probably average at best as a player. I played first base, I pitched a little bit, but we had some very good teams and very good athletes. These are old timers now. Probably the best player on my team was a guy named Timmy Mercier.
Very well. Good friend.
Was a great athlete. Timmy was terrific. We had our share of victories as a player. And, like I said, my biggest thing with college little league was probably when they gave me the teams to coach.
Okay. How old were you then?
When was I coaching there?
No, I said, how old were you when you started coaching at college little league?
Oh, boy. I don't remember.
Were you young, or were you?
No, I was pretty young. There was a little bit of a debate from the board of directors at the time before I joined them, I guess. But they gave me the shot, and we wound up winning 2 league titles, a city championship, and then they gave me the All-Stars. And we went all the way to District 7, and some of those kids that I was fortunate enough to coach, there was Tony Longo, who's passed away now, but he was on that HBO First and 10 series. He wound up in movies in Hollywood.
Oh, wow, okay.
And Frankie Tedesco was on my team. He runs Academy Bus. And Joe Spina, who became a high school star, Brian Doyle, Mark Armelino, I can go on and on, David Denny, Charlie Calari, we had Lindy Rosado.
Well, those are guys that are now my contemporaries. When you talk about Mark Armelino, who went to prep, he was a couple years older than me at prep. And
I thought Mark was going to be a pro. He was a tremendous baseball player.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Brian Doyle was breaking home run records left and right. God bless him. He must have hit, I think, 16 homers in one year. And was that for your team?
I couldn't remember stats, but I believe I had Brian and Mercy also, because after we had the success we did with college, Father Miller asked me if I would coach the OLM baseball team, which was pretty interesting. I wound up coaching the Our Lady Mercy baseball team, and we went 22-0, and we won, everything that was out there. Then he asked me to coach the football team. So there's a Jewish guy, the head baseball and football coach at Our Lady Mercy. And it was, from there I actually wound up at St. Andrews in Bayonne, so I guess I'm an equal opportunity employee.
Yeah, okay. So,
great times.
All right, so did you know at an early age, Harry, that you wanted to get into coaching? Was that something that you really wanted to get into?
Well, for me, it was either coaching or sports medicine.
Okay.
Actually, when I graduated from, most of my undergrad was at Jersey City State. I got my phys ed at Kane, and I did my elementary ed and that kind of stuff at St. Peter's. And I wound up at NYU in the sports medicine program. So sports medicine was where I wanted to really focus on.
Were you at the sports medicine program at NYU with Carl Gargiulo? Did you?
No. I was there with a guy named James Nicholas.
Oh my God!
Go way back.
Okay.
When I had James Nicholas as a teacher, he was developing the Atlantic Shelf Break. I'm going back a bit.
Did he already operate on Namath's knee for the first time at that point?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And it was a great staff and a great program. But opportunity came from another major influence in my life, the late Jimmy Gillett from Snyder.
God bless him.
Offered me a spot on the Snyder football team, and that pretty much changed it for me. That's where I went from sports medicine to coaching and teaching.
Okay. All right, so what years was this when you were at Snyder? Do you remember?
Oh, God. I don't remember the years per se, but I remember...
Was it during the heyday when Snyder was...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
We won the county. We had...
Stephen Hodnett, Miles Subert, Zane Corbin, Louis King.
I had Louis King, who we sent to Iowa.
Yep.
The nation in interceptions. I had Felix Wilson, who we sent to
Kentucky
the nation
in receptions. Yep.
I had a guy named
Walker Lee Ashley. Yep.
Who Joe Paterno made the captain of his. They went on to win the national championship. To the day that Joe died, Walker was loose. I spent a lot of time at clinics and getting to know Paterno and Grant Ganter, who did a lot of work in Hudson County for Penn State.
A lot of recruiting in the area, sure.
But we had, we had Keith Bethea, and we had, Troy Davis, who we sent to Penn State.
Sure.
Joe Taylor, who went to Washington State. And the coaching staff was Alex Franklin.
Yep.
It was Billy Sabers. It was Vinnie Smith. Trying not to leave anybody out. The late Jim Greer.
Yep.
Whose brother played in the NBA as well. We had Ollie Jackson. We had Rick Johnson.
Yep.
It was a great staff. We had great kids, and we wound up playing in state playoffs. We went to Bayonne against a Bayonne team that was awesome.
Was awesome. As a matter of fact, that year, I think that's 77. That year.
Maybe right.
Yeah, no, I think it was 77. That year, the North 1 Group 4 semifinals were North Bergen, Snyder, Bayonne, and Passaic were the 4 teams. And unfortunately, Snyder had to play Bayonne in the semifinals of the states, and that one, I'm pretty sure that game went to double overtime, and it ended up being 6-0. Willie Davis, and Dwayne Williams played for Bayonne, and what was the other kid's name? That was a great running back, also went big time. I can't think of his name, but
Grover Edwards, was it?
Grover Edwards. No, yep. So,
that game, that was such a Hudson County whackout, I can't tell you. At the end of that game, everybody was exhausted. But I'll tell you something about that game. Friday night before the game, we finished all our game prep and carrying on, and Kippen's been joking around, and we're getting ready to leave. Jimmy Gillett called us all back in. I said, "Why? What do you want?" He said, "Now we're going to plan on what happens if the game goes into overtime."
You're kidding me.
That's how prepared we were for that game. And I'll never forget that. We sat in the office, we worked out the overtime, and came to fruition, and we were fortunate enough to win that game. But those two teams went jaw to jaw, and it was one of the best football games that I was ever involved in. Plus, it got us the opportunity to go play in
Giant Stadium, yeah.
Against Finney's teams from North Bergen, and we got to practice out there during the week. They put us in the Cosmos locker room. Right away, I took Pele's locker, and it was that was a great experience up till the final score. We actually lost that game 6-0 in the final 52 seconds. North Bergen, I think, had a fourth and a yard and a half, and Vinny went for it, and a kid named
Glenn Conti. Wasn't it Glenn Conti?
There was a Glenn. I forget Glenn's last name.
Well, that running backfield was unbelievable. Stevie Greco was the quarterback for North Bergen. Rick Capozzi was one of the running backs, and
Capozzi. We actually taught those kings some Italian to trash talk to Capozzi. That was pretty good. And there was something they broke it, and they beat us 6-0. And I'll never forget that. We came out of the tunnel. There were 42,000 people in the stands. But it wasn't. Before us, Barringer played Westfield. It was like the early stages of Giant Stadium getting involved in that.
Right. And Westfield at that time was the number one team in the state, which they ended up. Butch Wolfolk was on that team. That's correct. Yeah.
And he ran wild that day. And,
yeah. I now mind you, that was my senior year of high school, and I still say, and incredibly, they moved up. If you remember, the year before, Hudson County was in 3 divisions. They had an A division, a B division, and a C division. Prep was in the B division, and we played Union Hill, Weehawken, Lincoln. I'm trying to think who else. So Hudson Catholic was in our division. So we had a pretty, comparative schedule, and we went 4-4-1 my junior year.
Yeah, there were no gimmies in those days.
No gimmies at all. Senior year, they move it into 2 divisions, and the 2 divisions were they put prep in the bigger division with North Bergen, Bayonne, and Snyder. Number 1 in the state, number 3 in the state, number 5 in the state, and us who were 0-9. And needless to say, we didn't do well at all. I remember we scored against Snyder. We scored, as a matter of fact, we took the lead. It was 7-0. We wanted to throw a parade. We wanted to have like the band come on the field. Oh my God, we just scored against Snyder. And then the final score was 40.
We had some program going there.
Oh God. And a lot of those kids I played grammar school football with at St. Paul's in Greenville. And
well, there you go. When they gave me the Our Lady of Mercy football job, we went from we wound up with the Archdiocese division, and we got to play St. Paul, what they call the Greenville Bowl.
Yep.
they were a powerhouse.
We were unbelievable. We really were. We were unbelievable.
Billy DeFazio was the coach. Vinny Smith was his assistant, I believe.
Yep.
He might have been a star of the C then.
Yep.
And they had one who I later was fortunate to coach named Tony Whitsett.
Pookie Whitsett was a great player.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, God. He was a man playing against Fort. We didn't. I mean, it was great that we got to that game and the kids got to play in the stadium. But if it was a fight, the ref would have stopped it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was a mismatch. It was a mismatch.
Yes. But it was a good experience for these kids. Billy was a friend, and got to a certain point, he put some of the weapons away.
Yes, he did.
But we had good players too. I mean, we had Wayne McCarthy, who became a fireman.
Yep.
I remember
John Sambora. I'm trying to think who else was on that.
Stamstead, and coming back to me, Joe Urbanovich's brother.
Right, Bobby.
Yes.
Who was a player. Although, you ready for this? I'm going to tell you a little hint. I've learned since I started doing this podcast. Do you know that we have been pronouncing that name wrong for 40 years?
What's it, Urbanovich?
It's Urbanovich. It's not Urbanovich. It's Urbanovich. And that's the correct...
Joe was a friend, too. Joe did a hell of a job with that baseball program.
Awesome. Awesome job. And a good man. He's a good friend, too. But, I mean, you talk about... it was only until I did the Joe Urbanovich or Urbanovich podcast that I know that I was pronouncing his name wrong. I said, all right, that's how we started it. I said, okay, now that I live in Kearney and there's all these people around here that are all familiar with your family from Rutherford, what is it? Is it Urbanovich or Urbanovich? He goes, well, no, technically it's Urbanovich. I said, how come you never corrected anybody? He says, why bother? I said, okay, well, you never even bothered. But yeah, no,
I took some athletic administration courses in Kearney in those days. I guess they still are. Was a major soccer player.
Yep.
The coach was in some of my classes. I can't think of his name.
John Miller?
Yes, John Miller. That's why I thought it was Miller versus Millar. Right?
Yeah, no, he's Miller, even though it's spelt that way. It's Miller.
Right.
Yeah. And he's also somebody who's become a good friend. So,
yeah,
all right.
He did a hell of a job.
All right, so talk about coaching that Snyder team. Did you say to yourself, wow, this is beyond high school talent. This is, like I could have like on my own little college team here with all these kids.
Oh, it was great. I mean, not only were they tremendous athletes, they were even better kids. Some of them, I mean, in those days, some of the kids in Snyder would get a bad rap, but
well,
they were.
Most of them were my friends, so they couldn't get a bad rap. I remember when we played Snyder, Zane Corbin, who was a very close friend of mine, leaned over the line of scrimmage and said to somebody who was the other tackle, said, I'm going to hit you so hard it's going to make your mammy cry. Right? So
we sent Zane to Iowa as well.
That's right. Yeah.
He was working on Wall Street the last time I ran into him.
Right. And his son went to prep, and he's now, I don't know where he is now, but he was also a very good football player. But we came back into the huddle, and the kid said, oh my God, he just said he's going to hit me so hard he's going to make my mammy cry. Right? So I went out after the huddle broke, and I went, Zane, can you stop taunting my players because they're getting really afraid and thinking that you're really bad? And he was like, mammy. So the rest of the game, all he kept saying was mammy, and this kid was spooked out of his drawers.
I remember he took a team up to I believe it was Miller Stadium in West New York, and we played the Blue Jays from St. Joe's, and there was a really good quarterback they had. I forget his name, and Barkley Ashley pursued this dude.
Mike Minervini.
Might have been.
Yeah.
The helmet, and then there was another kid there you might have heard of that took a pretty good shot. His name is Rich Hanson.
Yeah.
He was on that team too.
And he was nuts.
That was a good St. Joe's team. They had some really good players. I mean, Hudson County football was respected in those days, and that's public and parochial. Back then, it was more of a fair fight. It wasn't where you put your team on the bus and you knew what was going to happen. You didn't know what was going to happen.
No, because every team was decent. Yeah, and especially
team was coached. It wasn't where you had to look for coaches or you had to try and put a squad together, which happened later on in my career. You had to actually cut kids because you didn't have enough equipment.
Right.
And
well, we never had that problem at Fresh.
Freshman, junior varsity, and senior in city schools. It's unheard of in this state.
Yeah, unheard of.
And
there's sophomore teams. There were sophomore teams.
Yeah.
Which you never hear of anywhere. And again. All right, we'll be back. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you'd see the buses go by and all the campus, all the different schools, all the kids going to the games and all. It ain't the same anymore, that's all. That's
true. All right, we'll be back with more with our guest, Harry Lerner, in just a little bit. But first, this message from Strulowitz and Gargiulo. For over 40 years, Strulowitz and Gargiulo Twin Boro Physical Therapy has been caring for Hudson County. With modern state-of-the-art offices in Jersey City, Bayonne, and Hoboken, you can count on Carl Gargiulo and his highly trained, experienced staff of physical and occupational therapists to help you recover from an injury, get post-operative care, or reduce your pain and help you get back on track doing the things that you love to do. From back pain to balance difficulties, boy, can I relate to both of those, sports injuries to joint replacements, Carl and his staff will help you regain movement, resume activities you love, and recapture your independence. Carl's phone number is 201-792-3840. Please feel free to call Carl directly with any questions and visit their Hudson County offices or any of the other 42 Twin Boro locations throughout New Jersey. To learn more about Twin Boro and physical therapy, please visit the website, which is www.twinboro.com. Strulowitz and Gargiulo, Twin Boro Physical Therapy, is an in-network provider accepting all major insurances. And not only am I and Harry Lerner both sports casualties, so to speak, but we're also both been longtime patients of Carl Gargiulo at Strulowitz and Gargiulo. I've been going there regularly now for the last 9 years, and without Carl, I don't think I'd be walking. There's no question he helped me regain use of my legs in 2013, and he's just an absolute godsend. So I'm very, very happy to have Strulowitz and Gargiulo Twin Boro Physical Therapy as a sponsor. And there's no question, if you have any problems, anybody has any problems with any physical therapy needs, feel free. Give Carl a call. He'll be glad to take care of you. I know he would. He's very, very good in terms of helping others. That's Strulowitz and Gargiulo, Twin Boro Physical Therapy. Telephone number there again, 201-792-3840. And located at 1 Nardone Place, right a little bit past Journal Square. Great people there, and like I said, I'm a regular patient there, and I'm glad to be called a patient there. And I know my guest Harry Lerner has also been a patient there in the past. Okay, Harry, talk a little bit about now. You stayed at.
Let me just second you with Carl. Carl is a first-class guy, a tremendous therapist. We were neighbors in Belmar, New Jersey. He's put me and my family back together more than once. And when I was president of the Fifth Quarter Club, I had him come and put on a couple presentations, and they just don't come any better than Carl. Terrific human being.
I agree. I consider him like my brother. I owe my life to him. There's no question, because without him, I wouldn't be walking. So, okay. let's talk a little bit about now. You stayed at Snyder through all those glory years. When did you start to get an inkling that said to yourself, okay, I've been an assistant coach now for, I think at that point, 11 years. What made you want to become a head coach?
Well, I was sort of, after Jimmy Gillick sort of retired, and I sort of became, I would say, the head coach, not in title, but in actuality. I worked with Ollie Jackson, and we co-coached, and we continued to put out some really good football games. During the way I got involved in a mayoral election, I didn't pick the winner, and I was involuntarily transferred to 15 school, which turned out to be a great ride anyway. I loved it there. But while I was in 15th school, a call from Mike Venutola came, and he asked me to come to his office. And that's where they asked me if I wanted to be the head coach of Ferris High School. I said, give me a little time to think about it. And about 5 minutes later, I said, yes, but I have to be in the building. It's the only way I'll do it. And I got it done, and that's when I started at Ferris High School.
Okay, how long did you say to yourself, what did I get myself into? Because at that time, when you took that job, Ferris was not a quality program at all. So
no, it was just the opposite of what we described up till now. I remember I had to go through every male student on roll and make calls, and I went into the projects, and then I visited schools to put together a staff. I was lucky enough to grab what to this day is probably still the worst running back in St. Peter's Prep history. Joe Marcella came on board.
Today's his birthday, by the way.
Yeah. He's older than Dirt, I think.
He's older than Dirt, yes. Matter of fact, he's older than Vince Lombardi. So, and he had the misfortune of having to coach me too as well. So.
And we had Alex Franklin came with me from Snyder, and
boy, was that a get! That was a get for you. There's no question, because you relied on Alex a lot.
Alex is a good man and a very good football coach. And then there was Joe Blasucci, who worked in Ferris. He came on board. And a guy named Bob DeSimone, who has recently passed, was a hell of a defensive coordinator. And I had two Donofrio guys. And we had more coaches than players at that point. The first kid I met at Ferris was Edwin Rivera, who's now I think in charge of human resources for the Jersey City Board. He came on a broken down bicycle. I got the job on exit day, so school was just about finished. And Rivera, who nicknamed Sugar, came up and he said, Coach, all I wanted to do was get a team together and win. And I put on the film from the previous. They were good. I mean, they weren't as bad as they showed. There was some talent there. We recruited some talent, and we put together a decent amount of kids, but we didn't have enough. We had 16 kids.
Yep. And what was your first year as a head coach? 86?
Oh, God, I don't remember the year. I remember first game was against Snyder.
Okay, but I remember when you got hired, and I said, "Oh God, good luck to that."
And Eddie Ford, who the father obviously, said that we wouldn't win more than a game all year and score no more than X amount of points all year. And first game we had to go against Snyder, and I put 3 or 4 different onside kick packages in. We went with a no huddle offense. We had everything in for that game. And we wound up beating them something like 38-6. So we were off to the races. And I remember after the game they gave me the Gatorade bat and the bucket got stuck on my head. I couldn't breathe. They almost broke my nose. My nose was leaking after the game.
Oh my God.
My name on the bus, and it was such a big thing, and that's when it all got started.
And then part of you that was almost, I know you don't want to speak of it in that realm now, but it was, almost 40 years ago. But when they didn't give you the head coaching job at Snyder and they gave it to Rick Johnson, that was almost like a kick in the teeth, wasn't it? Because you did a lot of the legwork with that Snyder team.
It was interesting. He was the coach of Snyder, I believe, at that time.
Right.
And so we wound up going head-to-head. But Rick's a friend. I mean, we were teammates at Jersey City State when I guess it was the first varsity team back in 1968. The difference was he was a good football player and I was awful.
Okay.
I got hurt in preseason and I wound up a great influence in my life. Jack Steffens.
Wonderful man. Oh, God, what a wonderful man.
He kept me on board as sort of like an assistant. I learned so much from him. And so Rick and I were friends.
And Stinson was on that staff too, right?
And he was our captain.
Yeah, okay.
Captain of Jersey City State. In fact, when he won the first Coach of the Year award, I introduced him.
Oh, okay.
He was number 81 or 82. He was a hell of a player. That was, we played in the first Boulevard Bowl against St. Peter's. There were a lot of good football players on that Jersey City State team.
Sure.
It's Roy Miller and Mike Magnitolo and Herbert and half of Hoboken. There were two brothers from St. Joe's, Joel Arthur and Gene Arthur. Tom Shipman from Lincoln.
Oh my God, Tommy Shipman was a two-time All-State player. First team All-State.
He was one of the best football players that I've had to be around. Walker Lee Ashley and Louis King and Shipman. And when I got to Ferris, I was blessed with some really.
Well, we're gonna get to that in a second. So you got 16 kids on your Ferris team. And you win your first game. Did you say to yourself, okay, I think I can handle this?
I enjoyed it for about 10 minutes, and I'm trying to remember who was in our face next. It might have been, I don't know if it was Unionville or not, which was a really good team in those days, coached by Carl Hubig.
Yep.
And they wound up beating.
Well, I don't think Carl Hubig was the coach yet. I think it was Dave Wilkins.
Came first, Carl or David.
Dave came first, and then they made Dave the principal, and then Carl took over after that.
And they were really good. I think they beat us by a couple points, and we were actually going in for the winning score, and one of my running backs, a kid named Sharif Ballshill, was another great player. He went the wrong way on a sweep, and where he was supposed to go was there was a big cavity there, and he probably would have got in. So that took care of that, and
then Sharif Dasher leave you and go to Lincoln, and he played for Wiener.
I don't think that was. I don't remember that, but somebody might have gone to play for Jeff because Lincoln was really good.
Lincoln was very good, but I think it was Sharif Dasher. I'm pretty sure.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It might have been.
Yeah.
And every week was a battle. Tony Ferrigno.
Yep.
Obviously, Vinny at North Bergen and Eddie in Hoboken.
Ahern at Bayonne. And Bellotti was still at Prep with Hanson as his defensive coordinator, and trying to think who.
Guy too.
Hudson Catholic had Lenny Anglin was the coach at Hudson Catholic, and he was a good football guy. He knew what he was doing.
No, before Lenny, I think there was what's his name? He did a lot of motivational speaking.
Caputo.
No, not Jerry.
Not Jerry Caputo, no.
He might have been with Lenny in Troner up in Emerson. I can't think of the guy's name at Hudson Catholic. Really, he was a good coach, a great motivational speaker.
Oh well.
That's going back a bit.
Yeah, it's going back 40 years. But they were every single high school had a great coach. So you were going up every week. You were going up against some really, really good people.
There were no gimmicks. It was, like I said, Hudson County was feared, and we went out and my AD. Well, I started with Al Milano, who was a terrific athletic director and a great guy. He gave me the shot. Then he told him. And then a friend who I worked with this night at Cosmo Mendola got the AD job, and we were off to the races. We were in those days. The Jersey City Championship was a big deal.
Huge thing. Huge.
Out of the 9 years I was the head coach at Ferris, we won the Big 7 times. So we built the program, and it was a lot of fun, but it was the hardest job I've ever had. To this day, it was such hard work because every week was a battle.
Right.
And we wound up playing. I mean, like 1 week would be North Boston, they were in the top 5 in the state. Then it would be Prep, and they were in the top 5. Then we played Willingboro. Then we played. This other team came up from South Jersey.
The Jamesburg Training School. How about that?
I remember them.
I wrote a column back then that the Jamesburg Training School should have applied for membership in the HCIAA because of their schedule, they had 9 games on their schedule. 6 of their 9 games were against Hudson County teams. So I said,
we weren't one.
Oh, you weren't one of them. Okay.
No, we didn't play Jamesburg. That might have been better than some of the teams we wound up having to play.
Yeah.
We went 3 weeks in a row. Ferris High School had to play 3 of the top 5 teams in the state, back to back to back.
Wow.
But we were pretty good. I just can't think of the name of that one team. They came up because I remember the head coach was so I became pretty good friends with Doug Graver.
Right, good man.
What are you playing them for?
Yeah.
That's my idea. I remember having to go down to exit 4. I think it was at the time. I scouted them. I mean, it was a good time. I had a running back named Mark Hart. Tremendous football player. I just can't think of the name of the school, which is crazy.
Okay.
But
at that time, though, Harry, you had some great running backs of your own.
Right. And we were competitive with it.
Well, you had some great running backs, and some of your running backs were considered to be the best in the country. I mean, you had.
I remember we had a couple of national recruits. We had a kid named Calvin Johnson.
Right, who went to Kansas after having a stint at a JUCO, but then he ended up at Kansas, and he was a stud. Oh my God, was he good?
Yeah, we had Keith Price.
Keith Price, who is now the AD at Lincoln, right?
Really proud of what how Keith moved along. He's a really good person, professional guy, and we sent him to Rutgers. And he did some coaching at St. Peter's Prep. Just a great kid and a nice man now. I mean, the names, I can go on and on with them, but the cream de la creme was Mr. Jeter.
Lamont Jeter, yeah.
He was a
Parade All-American.
Parade All-American. He was a New York Giants Tri-State Player of the Year. He won the high school Heisman Trophy in his day. He was the Shutt All-American. I'll never forget when I met him. He might have been 5'11" with a high pair of sneakers on. I think it was a pepper and egg sandwich he was eating, and we were talking, and the basketball rolled over. And while still eating the sandwich, he picked his ball up and jammed it from a standing position.
No way, really?
And he was a special player.
Unbelievable player.
It's a shame what happened to him, but the running back coach from the Philadelphia Eagles, he did some work at Rutgers, actually helped Doug Graver. And they had some really good running backs there. They called Thunder and Lightning. he told me at this point in the career, Lamont Jeter was the best running back he had ever seen.
Wow.
And, that's pretty high praise.
Yep.
And he was just a special talent, and he became a national recruit, and he was really destined for stardom. A lot of things happened along the way. There were a lot of major colleges got in on him. Best ones weren't. And I wound up with a gallbladder attack. I was out for a while with emergency surgery. In those days, things were a little different. And make a long story short, he wound up at Rutgers. And this was when they were really, my friend Doug Graham was pretty much halfway out the door. Because Rutgers in those days wanted to be like Dartmouth from Monday to Friday and Florida State on Saturday. They didn't know how to do it.
Right. They really didn't.
And it was a bad marriage. I tried to get it with Andy Robinson at Grambling. That didn't work out. He wound up at American International College in Springfield, Mass. In a couple places, and he had an unfortunate accident, and now he's a quadriplegic. He's in a wheelchair.
Is that true? Oh God, I didn't know that. That's terrible.
He was one of the best football players you'll ever see.
Yep.
And we were lucky to have him. And the list goes on and on. We wound up, and we made the state playoffs. We had a very good run there. It was a pleasure to coach these kids.
Well, Ferris had never been to the state playoffs before you got there, and I remember the first year you got in. What did you get as a reward? Oh yeah, didn't you have to play Passaic and Ironhead?
I played Passaic.
Right, and Ironhead.
I remember I put the film on. I mean, the school was going crazy. It was a really big day. You had to swap films. It was mandatory film swap. And I put the first film on. Passaic beat Clifton by about 40 points. And I don't think we could have beat Clifton. Reality sort of bit right away. They were coached by a guy named Ray McCran.
Good man.
Their wingback was bigger than our tackles.
Right.
They were a super program. Really good team.
Yep.
And we took the opening kickoff, and I think it was Keith Price returned it. He almost took it the distance. Took it inside the 10, and that was as far as we got the rest of the way. They beat us like a rented mule. They were a tremendous team.
Right. And of course, and wasn't Ironhead the main go on that team?
Ironhead played for Passaic when we were at Snyder and made it 1 year.
Oh, okay, all right.
We were supposed to play them, but at the 11th hour, they pulled this shenanigan on us. It was either the day or two before we were supposed to play them. They came up with this C rule where you had to get a C or better in all your subjects in order to be eligible to play. The same average they would have given you a diploma, but you couldn't play football.
Oh my gosh.
And they pulled the plug on us, so that pleasure went to Tony Ferranola and his gang. And they went up there and, they got their carrots knocked loose. I mean, that was, to say it was, it was a one-town high school, and they were loaded. Well coached, and so we didn't get to play them, but they should have never taken the opportunity away from us. They came up with this very interesting rule like a day or two before we were supposed to go there.
Lovely. All right, so after you had the novelty of going to the state playoffs for the first time, was it now a legitimate goal that you said to yourself, okay, let's do it again next year. We know we can do it. Let's do it again next year. Was that a legitimate goal that you put in the heads of the kids?
It was. I don't know if it was legitimate, but we put it in the heads. It was the 10th game on our schedule. We had 9 games. Our schedule always had game 10 was the playoffs. So we we were just trying to instill that we're not going into these games hoping to win. We're going into them expecting to win.
Okay.
And, every week was something. I was also the president of the fifth quarter club at the time, and it was just different. Like I said, every team had freshmen, JV, there were sophomores. We made sure that reporters were invited and they were present at all the events. We met every Monday. Jersey Journal, the Dispatch, the Star Ledger, they all embraced high school football during that time.
Sure.
And we made sure we had end of the year banquets, not just for the All-Stars, but every senior from every school. We had college fairs where we would invite coaches from all over, and they'd sit down and talk to the kids. It was just a pleasure. It's the way it should be. And then I worked with guys on my committee, like Vinny Ascles was my vice president, and Donnie Ahern, and Andy Stinson, Tony Ferrino, Hanson, who at that time, his team was a pleasure to watch. That's I remember telling them that I think they have a real shot at Irving Catholic. They were ranked number one in the nation that one year.
Yep.
Richie and them went up there and they knocked them off.
94. Yeah.
And we had some game against that St. Peter's team. That came down to in the waning seconds we had the ball going in. We didn't get it done. Richie had some team. They had Paul Q was a running back. And a kid named Mike Medrano.
Yep.
Strong as a bull.
He was a man. He was built like a dock worker. And Pedro Serino, who could run a 4.3 40.
Yeah. Boston College.
Yep. Pedro Serino came real close to going to Ferris. You know that, right?
No.
Oh yeah.
If I did, I didn't remember it.
Yeah, it came real close. At the last minute, somebody came forward with money and they paid for his tuition to go to prep, but he was earmarked to go to Ferris, and then at the last minute he went to St. Peter's. But imagine that was in the same backfield. He had Medrano, he had Paul Q, and he had Serino, all in the same backfield.
The quarterback from Bayonne, I forget his name, but he was tough.
Jeff Skinner.
We pummeled that kid.
Nick Warnock, is that the kid you're thinking of?
Yes,
yeah.
That's who it was. And that was one hell of a football game, and they got us. But I think we earned some respect after that game because we were still Ferris. But after that game, I think we opened a lot of eyes. And then
I think you already had the attention of the county by then because you were already competitive for about 4 or 5 years. And everybody knew you couldn't sleep on Ferris. Nobody was sleeping on Ferris at all. And incredibly, some of the best games of all were the Jersey City public school games.
Oh yeah.
Playing Lincoln with Wiener and playing Dickinson when Marcello went to Dickinson and became the head coach there, and he had some players.
It was interesting. There was a while there where, except for Jeff, I think Jeff left, but every coach at every school was one of my assistants at one time, so it was pretty interesting.
Wow. Oh, so
Jeff might have gone to
Jeff left Lincoln, and then the next job after he left Lincoln, he went to Carteret. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And then he went to Elizabeth.
Jeff did a nice job.
Jeff is a good football coach.
Yes.
The only problem Jeff had was that his biggest enemy in the world was Vegnatolo, and Vegnatolo made life miserable for Jeff. Miserable.
Yeah, I guess that was the case. I had no problems with Mike. He and I were.
Well, you and him were buddies.
Well, no, I just when they asked me to. I tried to do it right. Not that one of these other guys did it, but I fundraised to get ice machines. We didn't have a weight room when we started.
Not at all.
We didn't go to preseason camps. I just wanted to do it the way I thought was right. We didn't have an athletic trainer. I pushed for athletic trainers. And, all these things got done. I was on board. And back to Jeff. I mean, Jeff was every clinic, anywhere I went, Jeff was there. I mean, Jeff did the work, did his homework, and it showed with the way his teams performed.
Without question.
And we finally went to these preseason camps, and
the 7-on-7s over the summer, sure, yeah.
They were a big help. We would go up to Pennsylvania. At times, all four city schools went to the same camp. At times, I'd go to the same camp as Eddie, and we'd go, we'd work out together while the other teams were all sleeping. Eddie's team and my team would be out. We'd get up with the sun. We'd have a full practice in before breakfast. We'd have 4-a-days. And,
4-a-days. 4-a-days. Yeah, there's something that we'll never hear again in our lifetime. 4-a-days. Never. So
crazy, but we kept them hydrated. It wasn't all conditioning, and it's football. We were smart about it, but I mean, we had to install systems. I mean, when I took this job, these kids, some of them couldn't get in stances. We had to use a different cadence than most teams. Our terminology was pretty simple. Passing game and things we put in, it was like a multiple offense. And I tried to pick some of the better things out of what a system called the Delaware. We ran a power I, we ran a straight T. I always wanted a tight end. I never liked the run and shoot, I guess was called in the day. Where,
right.
Some teams ran that, but there's no shortcuts. It took hard work to get this program, to get it to be a program. I'll never forget when I first talked to you interviewed me. I said when I took the job, I was wearing penny loafers, and now I'm in kid boots.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I used that quote, obviously, yeah, no question.
We were lucky. Good coaches, good players. Like I said, the central office gave us what we needed to be competitive. That was just, it was a great time in my life. It was the hardest job I ever had. It really was.
Okay. All right, we'll be back with Harry Lerner before we close up, but before we got a message from Stan Sports Center. And Stan Sports Center is your local full-service sporting goods vendor, authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stan's has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946. See, that's even before Harry Lerner was born. And is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and so much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at Stan's Plural, Sports Plural, CTR.com. That's Stan's Plural, Sports Plural, CTR.com. And check them out on social media for their latest creations. That's Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And if you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast and you mention that you heard the podcast with Harry Lerner, you can go to Stan's in Hoboken. They'll give you 10% discount on all retail in the store. That's 10% discount. That's not a bad deal. So mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast and you get a 10% discount at Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. And say hello to my friends there, Danny and Todd and Lou. Great people, and they take care of a lot of Hudson County people. They do a great job. Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. They also now have a new warehouse in Boonton, so they're moving up and doing some great things. Okay, so now we're going to close up a little bit with Harry Lerner. So then, Harry, what was it about? You stayed at Ferris for 11 years. After the 11 years was over, did you know that was it for you, or what?
Yeah, I had just felt I'd probably have taken the program as far as I could. I at the time my father became ill, and that became my Super Bowl, so to speak. I wanted to make sure that I did right by him.
And he was a great man and a big fan of mine. I used to spend a lot of time on the sidelines talking to your father. So.
Yeah, I was blessed. I mean, my parents from day one were at everything I either played or coached. And he was a really good guy, and it was time for me to take care of him. And I thought the program was in decent hands, and I sort of handed him my whistle. And once exposed coaching those, and I stayed on and became the crisis intervention counselor there for a while, and that's it. I had a great run.
Well, you were also the scorekeeper for all the games at Ferris, so you kept active.
Not only Ferris, I started doing the basketball games. Oh God, 100 years ago it seemed. I worked the old Snyder games for Eddie Butler, and I worked for Tom Fabian when first thing he told me was Ferris is a basketball school.
Okay.
But basketball in those days was the same way. I remember working a lot of Bobby Hurley's games. Bob was a tremendous game coach. His situational adjustments on the fly, his out of bounds plays. And, I actually worked a game where Ferris knocked off St. for to end the streak. That was a long time ago.
Yep.
Two tremendous basketball powerhouses. I mean, I was blessed to work, like you said.
And hated rivals. Oh my God, the rivalry between Ferris and St. Anthony was just unbelievable.
They didn't like each other.
Not at all.
There was a line around the school. The game was at 4 o'clock. There was a line around the school at 10:30 in the morning.
Yep.
And then I worked, Ferris played Elizabeth. All the Snyder games, and then Artie Rubin took over for Reddy. Great coaches, great teams, coaches from all over the country at all these games. I got to meet a lot of coaches and go out with a lot of basketball guys as well. Snyder with Raphael Allison and Shelton Gibbs. And these kids were tremendous basketball players.
Sure were. Hey, Ferris had their share of great basketball players too. Bobby Myrick and
Bobby Myrick was the first guy that when Tom Fabian told me it was a basketball school. My first quarterback was a kid named Bobby Myrick.
Bobby Myrick, and he was a great football player too.
He was a star for basketball, and unfortunately wound up hurting his knee actually, but he was good to go. And Tom and I eventually became very good colleagues and friends. And, in those days, it wasn't specialties. You wanted your quarterback on the line, shooting a game-winning foul shot. You wanted them up with the bases loaded, 3-2 count. You wanted these kids to experience. These were more than one sports stars.
And Bobby was three sports all counted.
Yes.
He's also a great baseball player too, as well.
He was a tremendous baseball player.
Yep.
He was just starting to turn where he pretty much had to specialize because a lot of these things started to become year-round.
Yep.
Which I don't know if that's for the good or not, because for the most part, most of these kids aren't going to fulfill their dreams. That's what I used to tell them when I was coaching Jersey City State. I said, go for it. But if it doesn't work out on the way back, I'll be right here in the office. And we were with Roy Miller, and that was fun too. But yeah, I did the official scoring of basketball for about 30 years. I wound up announcing games at the stadium and at Caven Point. Then Richie Hansen actually hired me to do the chains, first down markers. And that was very interesting. I got to be on the sideline with teams that I always used to play against. And you would I'd be on Vinny Ascoli's sideline. I'd be on Richie's. I'd be on, maybe Gene Pagnozzi might have still been there at the time. And, it was just sort of interesting to see how the other side lived. I mean, you were knocking each other dead every week, and now you were on their side.
Right. So, but all in all, when you look back at it, Harry, you had a great career when it came to sports, and almost 40 years between coaching football and scoring at basketball games. You were involved for
I didn't even get into my day home. I mean, I was the AD at St. Andrews, coached a couple sports there, and had some great games, but maybe we'll do that for another day. But yes, I was blessed. I had a fun career. I, for the most part, have stayed healthy and enjoyed life. And once in a while, I regretted not sticking with the sports medicine, but these were memories and acquaintances to last a lifetime.
And the good news about you, Harry, is that you were always one of the most beloved coaches in the county. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in the world that could say a single solitary bad thing about you whatsoever. You had a lot of good relationships, and you formed a lot of good relationships, and a lot of people looked after you and looked up to you. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and there's no question. There was no bad blood at all between Harry Lerner's teams and whoever they were playing. It really was, you're very well respected and very well liked, so that has to say. You're quite welcome. So, all right, so to sum it all up, how blessed have you been to have such a long and successful career in sports in Hudson County?
Very fortunate. Got to work with people I probably never would have come across from all walks of life. On the field, sometimes they were foes, but in life they became friends. And stayed in touch with a lot of them, and still stay in touch with a lot of the old players. And it was just a good way to go through the journey. I mean, you may not be the richest man in the world monetarily, but you always lived on a school calendar. You had the ability through coaching and other types of part-time work to make a good buck. And it was just a very fruitful way to go about things. And no complaints.
Good. Glad to hear.
Just thankful.
Well, I'm thankful that you were able to spend this hour with me. You're a great guest, and it was a great trip down memory lane. And like I said, that I used to always look forward to giving you a call and interviewing you about your different players and your teams and what have you. So you were always.
And when you retired, that was one of the last of that era. I mean, Eddie Ford and you and some of the old guys from Arnie Leshin, the Wayne Witkowski, Hudson County meant something and was covered.
Yep.
It wasn't just a little paragraph. I mean, everybody looked forward to the games, the articles on Mondays, the battles right on through to even preseason scrimmages. You guys did the right thing, were for the kids, and props to you for that.
No, thank you.
Hudson County, it's not going to be the same without guys like you with the pen in hand, so to speak.
That's it. Well, I'm still doing this, so that keeps me going. But the days are right, and that's now behind me. So anyway, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, Harry. This was a great trip down memory lane, and I wish you the best of luck and health. And hopefully I'll see you soon somewhere down the road.
Right back at you. I thank you, Jim.
Okay, buddy. You take care of yourself. And that was my special guest today, Harry Lerner, who had a great career as a coach, but more importantly as the head football coach at Ferris for a while there when he put Ferris back on the map, not only Hudson County-wise, but statewide. Thank you very much for listening today. Again, thanks to my sponsors, which are Stan Sports Center located in Hoboken, 528 Washington Street, Hoboken. Telephone number there, 201-798-4466. And Strulowitz and Gargiulo, Twin Boro Physical Therapy, located in Nardone Place in Jersey City. Telephone number there, 792-3840. Thanks again for listening today. Again, a special thanks to my executive producer, Johnny Haig, my great nephew, who without him, this would not be a Hudson County Sports Podcast. And we're going strong now, coming up on our 3rd anniversary. So thank you very much for listening today. We'll have another edition next week. I'm your host, Jim Haig. Have a pleasant day.